Elder's Bling. This is the game that won most anticipated game 2 years in a row while not even having a trailer out yet. This is the game people legitimately believe to be a fucking myth. This is the game where they got the guy from the other thing to help on this thing, except he apparently didn't really help. Elden Ring is such a long game. This review took me a month because it took me a goddamn month just to beat the fucking thing. This is by far the hardest and also most bullshit Souls game From Software has put out to date. On one hand, you have bosses like my man Radon and Godric, and these are like the pinnacle of everything From Soft has learned about Souls bosses. These guys just wipe the fucking floor with you at the beginning, but every time you die, you know it was your fault, and you come back in and you just learn them a little bit and a little bit more until your second playthrough where you're like, wow, I actually struggle with these fucking people. But then on the other hand, you have this fat fucking bitch. And I mean, this is just fucking broken and unbalanced bullshit. There is also a wide variety of bosses in this game. I mean, I can only recall a few that were repeats, and most of the repeats were pushovers anyways, so they don't really matter. But I'm pretty sure every important boss was completely unique, which is just actually incredible that they have 90 hours of unique bosses in this game. And it's not just the bosses that's unique. This map is fucking humongous. There are like 6 sections in this game, and each section is the size of most open world games' full maps. I played the beta test and I assumed Limgrave would pretty much cover like a good decent chunk of the map, but no, that is a fraction of this map. You beat Limgrave and it sends you to fucking Liurnia, and you're like, okay, this game is big. But then you beat Liurnia and it sends you to Altless Plateau, and then you're like, Jesus Christ, okay, let me go get rid of my life really quick because this game just isn't going to end. And then you beat Altless Plateau and it sends you to a snowy area and you're just like, fuck! And then you don't realize there are still 2 more sections, and at that point you just turn off your PS5 and go outside because you haven't seen grass for the last 2 weeks. Most open world games these days are also bland, boring, and pretty much mesh into the same fucking game each time. And I was kind of worried Elden Ring being open world would fall into that same problem. This game doesn't though. Holy shit, I've never had so much fun walking around and taking time to explore each and every little corner, because this game does something super well, and that is rewarding the player for exploring. In most open world games, you don't get anything notable for exploring. You might find a new bow that gives you +2 damage, or a collectible backpack with a big fucking horrible drawing that a kid made for you 13 years ago. But in this game, let's say you come across Godric and he is just fucking you up. Well, you can go around the map and you find an item like this, and suddenly you are fucking him up. Exploring this game can actually reward you with a notable impact on your character's strength, and that's why exploration feels so good in this game. You top that with a beautiful looking world with so much thought and effort put into every corner, and you got a world worth exploring every single time you play this game. The story in this game is just as confusing as every other story in every other Souls game. I know very little of the lore and I'm pretty dumb, so I'm not even going to pretend like I got a handle on what's going on here, but there are some bomb-ass visuals, cool bosses, and a character called the Dung Eater. So, you know, that's pretty cool. The co-op works pretty well in this game compared to the rest. It's basically the same thing as Dark Souls 1 through 3, Demon Souls. It's the exact same thing. You use an item, you pick up a sign on the ground, and boom, you're playing together. What this game does differently, though, is you can actually summon the bad guys. You can summon like some wolves, you can summon a fucking jellyfish, you can summon you can summon some old guy with a stick. You can summon like 3 old people with a stick. Like, you can summon a lot of people in this game to fight for you, and it literally makes the game feel a lot easier. It gives people who don't have friends like me, and people who also struggle with Souls games like me, an alternative when you can just summon 2 of you, because then you can go in with 2 big ass wheels, and you know, bosses don't even stand a chance until you realize the fucking wheel sucks and you should actually just go off and use the Bloodhound Fang. And now I want to get into the scaling, because like I just talked about earlier, this game kind of has some shitty ass scaling. There's some bosses in this game that can one-shot you with a move that comes out of fucking nowhere. It literally takes like not even 3 seconds. It takes a second for them to wind up these moves, and you are just dead. You don't even get a chance to think about that. On the other hand, when you're not facing this bitch, you can summon this mimic tier. And if you get this thing to +10, this thing can actually solo bosses for you. I did it multiple times. I would just go sit in a corner and the boss would be dead by the time I stood up. This thing is overpowered. So there is definitely overpowered things on both sides of the equation here. So I hope like in the future they can literally just like fix that. It's not something hard to fix. It's a pretty easy thing to fix with like one simple patch, and if they did that, this game would be so much better off for it. Elden Ring is pretty much everything it was hyped up to be, and after a couple disappointing hyped up games, it was a nice like breath of fresh air, and it's nearly as perfect as a Souls game can be, besides some broken ass bullshit in the later half of the game and some poor performance here and there. There are no really negatives to this game. The big and beautiful open world mixed with the intriguing characters, awesome bosses for the most part, the pinnacle of Souls gameplay up until this point, and the ease of access for newcomers to the series makes for a great addition to a series that just can't seem to flop. Elder's Bling is getting a fantastic 9 out of 10, baby. Needs more backpacks and less of this bitch.